quickly, this is just my opinion based. I'm not saying my opinion's the only right way. This is the beauty about the community, I would say, is we all just have different tastes. We all have different insights of why each movie is either not good or bad. So, again, please just remind yourselves that this is just my opinion, but I also like to have discussions maybe why you would not agree with my list and say, well, I don't like this movie because of this element or that element. And I just like having those conversations, so I invite that. So please bring that along here into this channel. Let me quickly go into again why or how I do my rankings list and how I review each film. So I solely look at the storytelling, the filmography, and then also the acting as well. And that's where I kind of collect my score, my ranking for each film. But before we go into it, let me just share this with you. Like, Hulu, they need to step it up with the horror. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like, they have a lot of good like horror thriller TV series, but as like films, it was very rough making this list. I'm not gonna lie. But they do have some gems in there that I feel are good for this time of the year, that whole spooky season again, to get you in the vibe. Here's my list, and let's dive into it. So number 10 spot is Hostel. Best friends Josh and Paxton decide to spend the summer after a college graduation an all-out backpacking trip across Europe. While stopping in Amsterdam to indulge their taste for drugs and sex, they meet Ollie, a like-minded traveler from Iceland. When the three bachelors set off to investigate enticing rumors of a hostel in the city populated by lusty women, they find themselves drawn unwittingly into a deadly game. I am not a big body torture, or I call it torture porn type of movies. And again, this is kind of like, for me, going into the slim pickings of Hulu. But I do appreciate this one because I do feel like it was a good milestone into the horror genre of torture and body horror. And I do like Eli Roth's way of like putting your face and getting your attention and just like ingraining that so you don't forget. I think that's what is another like makes it a good horror film in that way. But I did not find some of the acting so strong. That was my only very nitpickiness is in that way. But overall, I would have to give it credit for the graphics and the effects of it. It was very realistic, and that's the difference between practical effects and CGI. I really did like it, but that's probably why it's on number 10, because it's just not my thing for body torture porn. So number 9 I put down as Children of the Corn. As physician Bert and his girlfriend Vicky drive across the Midwest to his new job, the trip comes to a sudden halt when they encounter the body of a murdered boy on the road. In trying to contact the authorities, Bert and Vicky wander into a small town populated only by children. Followers of a sinister young preacher Isaac, soon the couple is fleeing the youthful fanatics who have been sacrificing due to demonic entities. So I really like Children of the Corn because I just feel like it just resonates my upbringings, my hometown vibes. But I grew up in Indiana, so there's a lot of cornfields. And as a kid, I remember watching this and my family
be like, just don't go in the cornfields, there's those evil children.
And it was kind of like a game, so I think that's why Children of the Corn big time has a soft spot in my heart. But in general, like the idea premise of like the evil children being possessed or unpossessed is just more like brainwashing, cultish in that way. I really liked it. And again, I feel like it started the trend with other future evil children being in the cult type of genre. And with Stephen King's writing in it, it was very done well. I have read some people say that they are kind of not thrilled with the slow burn of it, which in my opinion, I don't feel like it has too much of a slow burn. I feel like it just has the good taste of shock and thrill and excitement in there. But I am waiting for a remake of it, honestly. I would like to see more updated effects of it, not CGI. Again, don't need to do a lot of CGI in there. I think it could do well with the technology that we have now for filmography of it, and also too with just again the effects and writing. It would just be interesting to see how it'd be done remade. My number 8 spot would be The Cured. After years of a zombie plague that ravaged Europe, humanity grapples with how to reintegrate the former zombies into a society. Not many people have heard or know of this movie. It's another zombie movie, and I know most zombie movies have that whole same trope, so it's kind of like what's new with this. And it does. This one does have a lot of like the same tropes, same premise, same ideas, but there's a difference though. It's the whole idea of like bringing in a cured society with this virus, for example, and I've never seen anything quite done like that before. I don't know, I think that's the big thing that won me over with The Cured is the writing and also the acting. Like Ellen Page in there, like, and the other actors that are in there, they made it very likable and believable. And I don't know, when you had at least those two ingredients that are very strong, then you're going to be very successful into having something new and fresh into the subgenre. And also, I would say the filmography, the shots are very done well. It was very creative and like nothing too much new, I would say, compared to like other zombie films, but it was done well. I liked it. I would say it's a strong 8 out of 10 on my list, so I like it. You might be surprised who is ranked on 7, because you'd probably think I would rank it either back to back with the previous one or not, but number 7 would be Hostel Part 2. Beth, Lorna, and Whitney, 3 young American women traveling abroad in Rome, decide to take a weekend excursion. Lured from their intended destination by a beautiful acquaintance, the women anticipate to stay at a luxurious spa. Instead, they become pawns in a grisly game designed to entertain wealthy deviants from around the world. I actually like this one more than Part 1, but I've had some friends tell me like they just didn't like how they killed off the main protagonist from Part 1 so quickly in this one. But I don't know. I'm kind of happy they did, because I just didn't like have those feels or have those attachments to the first protagonist. And what I liked about this one more is like the characters were a little bit more likable in my opinion, and I liked more of the effects and filmography of it. It was like very creepy. It's still very torture porn. Just there was more moments I was just like, wow, I really liked the effects of how they did that better than Part 1. And I also liked the actors, how they just like, you know, I guess looked or portrayed their character on screen more. So I feel like this one was just way done. It stepped it up from Part 1. It definitely, in my opinion. But tell me your thoughts on Hostel 1 and 2. Like, which one was your favorite? Why? Tell me more. I want to hear your guys' thoughts and ideas about that and below in the comments. So I'm very excited to talk about this one. So number 6 is Tragedy Girls. Teenage crime reporters Sadie and Michaela are on the hot trail of a crazed serial killer. After capturing the maniac and holding him hostage, they soon realize that the best way to boost their social media stardom is to commit the murders themselves. This one surprised me. I watched this like probably like beginning of May of this year, and I'm pretty mad that I slept on this one. But I think the reason why mainly I did is because comedy mixed with horror is normally not my favorite type of horror movie to watch, and I feel like it's overdone or it's way too cheesy for me. I like some cheese in my horror, but some comedy horror is just way too cheesy and it just gets obnoxious, and I'm over it. I'm like, okay, next. So This one, it was the type of comedy I enjoy. It's not too cheesy. It's not not too campy. It's just like very Mean Girls meets with Freddy or Jason, I would compare it to, and I liked it. I had a fun time with this, and honestly, it's like a good movie to pop in with some friends if you have like a small group of friends. I know we're in the pandemic right now, but if you just want to do a Zoom party with some friends and you have some friends that are just like, I'm not about the scary horror, whatever, this is a perfect one. And I think everyone can just have a good moment of laugh while also being the spirits of horror films. So number 5 is another one that surprised me because I did have some expectations for it when I first heard that was like coming out and being made, as Child's Play, the 2019 reboot. After moving into a new city, young Andy receives a special present from his mother, a seemingly innocent buddy doll that becomes his best friend. When the doll suddenly takes his life on his own, Andy unites with the neighborhood children to stop the sinister toy from wreaking bloody havoc. And I really like this one, you all. Like, this one was really good in the sense of how you do a remake. It does not need to be like shot for shot the same as the original. And I think also a remake, you do not need to outdo the original either. It's just be creative, come up with your own, but don't lose the idea premise of it. And what I mean by that is, if you have a movie original that's horror, don't take out the horror piece out of it completely. That's the one thing I just don't like about some remakes, is that, oh, this was originally a thriller or a horror, and then we're gonna take out and make it into a comedy fantasy and Disney-ish, and that's it. And it's like, I'm not in for that ride. But this one, it still had the horror, but what made it different was the remake is more of a sci-fi horror, and sci-fi horror is meh to me, but this one did a very good job with that. And I liked the gore in it. It was a good amount of gore while also kind of still had that Child's Play fun ride to it. Let's say, as in it's kind of like campy slasher. That's where I'm going with that. But I wouldn't say it outdid the original at all, by all means. I don't think it's going to be iconic in that way. But is it going to age well, as in 5 years from now, are we going to remember it or be like, oh, that was a good one? Maybe not. I don't think so. But so far, I think it's one of those films that I'm just enjoying it as we can see it age, and I like it. So number 4 is Stir of Echoes. Blue-collar family man Tom scoffs at supernatural phenomena until he lets his sister's wife Lisa put him into a hypnotic trance. Upon awakening, Tom realizes he has a psychic connection with his son Jake. He also has alarming hallucinations of a missing teenage neighborhood girl named Samantha. Tom's convinced his visions will lead him to the girl, being the desperate search that puts him into a life-threatening situation. This one is kind of a nostalgic one. It's a very 90s paranormal horror, but I don't know, I just love it. I think I've watched it probably like 5 or 6 times this year already, and normally I don't watch the Stir of Echoes that many times, but for some reason it just, I don't know, it made me just go back into my younger self when I first started like watching horror, like this type of horror. And I don't know, I liked the writing of it. It kept me interested, but I think what really won me over was the filmography and how it was shot. It was just done so good. I liked the darkness of it while having like the blue tones to it when it was going into the flashbacks. And it's just how the filmmakers did it. I'm hooked. But part 2 is trash. Don't give part 2 any chance, I guess. If you want to, I mean, go ahead, but to me, part 2 doesn't touch this one at all, but this one, I just feel like it ages so far very well. It's like wine. It's like, you're good. You're good. Stay you. Stay strong. I support you. Number 3 would be Blade. Half mortal, half immortal, is out to avenge his mother's death and rid the world of vampires. The modern-day technology advanced vampires he is going after are in search of his special blood type needed to summon an evil god who plays a key role in the plan to execute the human race. I am a sucker. This is a guilty pleasure by the way. Like, I am a vampire horror lover. Like, I would say that's my guilty pleasure, but I'm not ashamed too much of it. But I like Blade. I think the whole horror and action of it is done very well. Could the effects be better? Yeah. Does it deserve number 3? For me it does. But for it to be like the first like horror Marvel character and to be put on there that well, I don't know. I think that's why I made it number 3. It really made a stamp mark and made like a recognition of like, wow, this is, I don't know, everyone knows Blade. It's kind of like the Jason, the Michael, the Freddy. Everyone knows who Blade is. That's where I'm trying to go with that. And I wish Marvel would go back to that style of horror when they're going to introduce like horror genre superhero movies. And the reason I throw it out there is because later on in my channel you'll probably see me do a movie review of New Mutants, and that one's going to be a little controversial, but we'll see. It's going to be a fun ride. But I just hope like NCU will get to that point of like going back to what they did with Blade, of having those horror elements in there, because how they did that, I don't know, it's very iconic. It's very like, yeah, that's what I like about a vampire movie. Number 2 would be Cabin in the Woods. When 5 college friends arrive at a remote forest cabin for a little vacation, little do they know they expect the horrors await them. One by one, the youths fall victim to the backwoods zombies, but there's another factor in play. 2 scientists are manipulating the ghoulish goings, but even the body count arises. There is yet more at work that meets the eye. Again, this one surprised me, but surprised me in a different way than the other ones earlier on this list. Again, it's a comedy, horror mixture, and it kind of gives off the vibes of Scream, how it makes fun of itself. But the reason why it made me like surprised, because I watched this one in the movie theater, I remember, and I went into it full expectantly, like thinking it's going to be like a suspenseful, scary horror. Did not think any like comedy, because normally back in that time I did not do any research of horror films, and because I just wanted to go in there blindly. So again, I was very blind. And then when it started to unravel even more and you're starting to see more of the comedy elements of it, I was like, at first I was like, I don't know if I like this at all. I'm pretty mad about this. And it honestly took me a little while to get back to liking it. I had to rewatch it over and over again, but now knowing what to expect, a little bit of like the comedy, now I'm like, okay, I liked how it made fun of itself, and I like how it did still those typical horror tropes, but it was done very different in a way too. Like even outside of like comparing it to Scream, it's still a little bit different outside, and I think it just provided a good amount of entertainment for me, and I definitely think it made me appreciate horror comedy even more, and I like to thank it. Thank you very much for branching me out and making me a better horror lover in that way. This might be controversial, but I'm not mad about it. My number 1 spot for Hulu horror would be Interview with a Vampire. Born as an 18th century Lord, Lewis is now a vampire, telling his story to an eager journalist. Suicidal after the death of his family, he meets Lestate, a vampire who persuades him to choose immortality over death and becomes his own companion. Eventually, gentle Louis resolves to leave his violent maker, but Lestat guilts him into staying by turning a young girl who, addition to the family, breeds even more conflict. This one, I love it. I think it still ages very well. I feel like most everyone knows about it just because of how iconic it is. Especially the actors in it. It was such a strong cast. I mean, for example, you had like Tom Cruise, even though personally I don't find him like that much of impressive as a actor. But in that role, though, I think he really did a very well job of what he was providing, and he killed it. And then like you have Kirsten Dunst, and then you have Brad Pitt, many more in this cast, and what they provided, the elements of the book that I read, killed it in my opinion. But you tell me, who do you envision or thought would be a better cast for Interview with the Vampire? Because I'm curious to see, because I feel like everyone has different ideas for the characters. And I've heard that there's a possible remake, and if that is true, someone please tell me down below, because I would like to know if that's true, because that's exciting. But the other controversial piece of this is that I feel like people say it's such a long, slow burn movie, and I think I appreciate slow burns a lot because it allows me to take in the visionary, the scenes, the settings, when people like put a lot of effort and time into that beauty. And I really did like this one a lot, and I feel like it's a strong horror film within Hulu. And if you have not given it a chance, anyone, because I know there's probably new horror fans here, please do give it a try. Even if you need to take breaks out of it, do it, because then it will just have you, like, I don't know, kind of have you think in a way of some morals and values, and it probably will also test your emotions as well as it did for me. Now, tell me what would be your top 10 on Hulu, because again, there might be some horror films that I may have missed just because I was doing this real quick and I probably glanced over, or I probably just didn't get the chance to see it. But I'm open to watch new horror, and maybe it would change my list on Hulu. And just comment, share below what your top 10 of Hulu would be. And the next ranking video I'm going to do, I'm going to rank all the horror that's on Tubi. If you do not know what Tubi is a free streaming services if you have Amazon Fire Stick, and I'll tell more about that in the next video. If you also have a movie review that you want me to talk and discuss about, please comment below. I am dying to maybe do a new horror film as well that I have not watched, or just something that's out of the box, and I would like to just share my thoughts and also receive people's thoughts about that too. But I'll see you in the next video, y'all.